Alright, so I got the issue figured out. I had to delete some stuff off the video, off the camera. So, I believe where I left off, gosh, I'm not even sure where I left off now in the last video. I think maybe here where it talks about dream interpretations that come too easily not being as accurate or as deep. So, in response to this practical need, I began to develop the 4-step approach to dreams that you will find in this book. My goal is to provide a way for people to interpret dreams on their own. Most people need to learn how to go to their own dreams, their own unconscious, for their authority. But in order to do this, we need a practical approach that gets us started. A series of physical and mental steps that enable us to approach the dream, break it down into symbols, and discover the meanings that these symbols have for us. Since the time years ago when I and my patients developed the 4-step method, I have observed that most people who use it conscientiously can get at the real substance of their dreams and arrive at a fairly accurate interpretation. They find that the essence or main energy of their dreams, and that is they find the essence or main energy of their dreams, and that is what is important. An over-involvement with theories is a main obstacle to dream work. And the excerpt says, naturally, a doctor must be familiar with the so-called methods, but he must guard against falling into any specific routine approach. In general, one must guard against theoretical assumptions. To my mind, in dealing with individuals, only individual understanding will do. We need a different language for every patient. In one analysis, I can be heard talking the Adlerian dialect, and in another, the Freudian. And that is excerpted from Carl Jung's MDR, paragraph 131, and it has a footnote here saying MDR stands for Memories, Dreams, and Reflections, and that is one of his books, and it says that that will be designated throughout this book with the abbreviation of MDR. Other works by Jung will be referred to by the abbreviation CW for collected works, preceded by the volume number and followed by the paragraph number, to eliminate footnotes as much as possible. And there is a full bibliography in the back of the book. Alrighty, so from Jung, I took courage to tell my patients not to put their faith in abstract concepts. Put your faith in your own unconscious, your own dreams. If you would learn from your dreams, then work with them. Live with the symbols in your dreams as though they were your physical companions in daily life. You will discover, if you do, that they really are your companions in the inner world. Analysis and homework. This book is not intended to substitute for the help and guidance of your analyst if you are doing formal analysis, but it is intended to help you with your homework. You should discuss the approaches that you find here and follow your analyst's advice in using these techniques. People get the best out of analysis when they do their homework day by day and bring their dreams, fantasy material, and active imagination to the therapist after they have worked on it and partially digested it. The analytical hour can then be spent on refining or amplifying the work that has already been done. This allows the analyst to make the best use of the patient's time and helps the patient to develop at a faster pace. I don't know how many people go for dream analysis these days. I think that's kind of become sort of lost art, like much of the spiritual stuff. So people are returning to things like, well, I don't know if they've ever really left, but it's becoming more popularized again. Astrology, numerology, the tarot, dream analysis, all of these things that come from a place of spirituality have been given a sort of taboo. I know tarot has. I used to be like, oh no, I don't want to get, go to a fortune teller or anything like that. But really, the ones that aren't talking about, oh, I can predict your future and who you're going to marry and like things like that, but the ones that talk about your personality based on your astrological chart and your numbers and how they impact who you are as a person and what your soul urge is and all of those things. Very accurate. It's very fascinating. Where the planets were at the time of your birth and how it corresponds to your personality and character traits and how you should I don't think you should live by those, because you bring the consciousness to the table, but they are a good blueprint of how you can understand yourself and how you've been up to this point, and anything you don't like. Myself, for example, I'm a Taurus. Yeah, I can be stubborn, very, very stubborn, but I learned along the way what to be stubborn about. Stubborn about my convictions, not about little things that are trivial, and learning when to find that balance between give and take in relationships and how I relate to other people. So I learned the negatives of my sign, basically, to try to bring myself to a point of who my higher self is, who I envision my higher self as, and I use those things to kind of help me gauge that and where I want to go, how I want to walk, how I want to be. That's part of self-development and inner work. So it's interesting to know, interesting to pay attention to these practices. So let's continue. People get the best out of analysis when they do their homework day by day and bring their dreams, fantasy material. I believe I already read this. Yes, absolutely. So this closed with, this allows the analyst to make the best use of the patient's time and helps the patient to develop at a faster pace. So this, all that we're doing on our own, you don't need an analyst, but you're going to help yourself in your journey of self-actualization that much faster than you would if you just went through life kind of learning the lessons as they came to you through life experience. You're going to open doors for yourself, and it happens. Trust me, I've recently changed my life in a way that I've been wanting to for a long, long time. I was working 40 hours, 50 hours, 60 hours for a company that was great on paper in a lot of ways. It's been around for a lot of years, many, many years. Great founders, great message, great principles, but it's slowly drifting away from that, and then it was taking more and more of my time. I was being treated less and less like an individual, more and more like a number. At that company, they even call people a body. They call you a body when they need an employee over somewhere. Not in my position where I moved into management, but management referred to their employees as bodies. Get another body over here for da-da-da-da. I hated that. And so the more, even though I got into management, I realized that I was being treated like a body too and not a person, and the company was moving towards, moving away from values, moving away from its inner work that the founders had laid out. And I was like, okay, let me leave corporate, let me get into public. So work for a city, get a good steady city job. Then it's like the same thing, 40 hours a week. And I was like, I have other things that I want to focus my time and attention on, spiritual things, messages, and helping people and doing something to help change the world. That's what I really want to do. And when am I going to start doing that? At what point, if I got my ladder up against this corporate, climbing the corporate ladder, so to speak, but my soul urges to speak to people and to make an impact, to help explain things that people, that sometimes go over people's heads, that went over my head for a long time, but I had to sit with this stuff and come to an understanding with it, and I feel like I've come to a good enough understanding where I want to keep learning more, but I want more people with me on that journey so we can say, hey, look where we've gotten, or let's keep each other on this track to grow together. And so anyways, I realized that I can't do that working a 9 to 5, working a 40-hour job, 40-hour week. So I set the intention that I wanted to work part-time and still earn a decent income. Money has never been the be-all, end-all for me. I feel like, do the right thing, and it will come. I live comfortably. I feel very blessed, my family and whatnot, but my passion was to because I was making great money over there at that company, but I stepped away from that because I wanted to do some soul. My soul was yearning. I feel like I was getting that force you to wake up and snap out of it. So I got out of that. I resigned from that position, started somewhere else, and it was still 40 hours a week, and I decided, no, I need to go part-time, and found a job. My husband actually found it for me, an ad, part-time, ability to work from home, partially, working directly for a CEO, working for a CEO of a leadership development company, and right at the pay point that I said that I was looking for. Talk about a manifestation. And in working for him, he decided that he was going to be able to mentor me. And And part of what I wanted to do on the side was work on videos and building something where people can come together to learn this stuff together, to speak about self-development, philosophy, spiritual growth, spiritual powers, learning how to become our best selves and change the world, starting with ourselves. People who are legitimately ready to take the time to work on themselves and then measure their growth, because people can only listen to you once they see what you've done, what you've had to show for it. And that's why I really want to build something to show for it. Already to have manifested this freedom to spend part of my days for me, it's a real true blessing. And then to also have it be the other part, to be working in harmony with my goals, it's amazing. But this is what happens when you balance yourself and get into really understanding and knowing the power of inner work. It's awesome. So sorry, I really wanted to share that. So to continue, working without an analyst. It's ironic he says that. If you do not have an analyst available to you, you might wonder whether it is correct for you to work on your dreams or use other techniques of inner work on your own. I believe that you may do so safely and would benefit from learning these methods. There is one proviso. You must observe the precautions. As you read through these chapters, you will find some warnings and some suggestions for staying out of trouble. Be sure to take them seriously and follow them. You must understand that when you approach the unconscious, you are dealing with one of the most powerful autonomous forces in human experience. The techniques of inner work are intended to set in motion the great powers of the unconscious, but in a sense, this is like taking the cap off of a geyser. Things can get out of hand if you are not careful. If you fail to take this process seriously or try to turn it into mere entertainment, you can hurt yourself. And he's going to go on a little bit more about the active imagination, but I think a lot of that comes with your soul intention too, your intention when learning these things. You're a powerful being, but as much power as you have to do good, you have equal power to do harm. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot in society right now. So just be advised, you need to be in balanced harmony. Think about your intentions. What are your reasons for wanting power? Spiritual power is very different from authoritative power. There's some food for thought. You need to be particularly careful with active imagination. It should not be practiced unless you have someone available who is familiar with this art, someone who knows how to get you back to the ordinary earth if you should be overwhelmed by the inner world. Active imagination is safe if we obey the rules and use common sense, but it is possible to get in too deep and feel as though we are sinking too far into the unconscious. Your helper can be either an analyst or a layperson who has some experience with active imagination. The main point is to have a friend you can call on if you lose your bearings. Again, the need for community, why this would be so awesome to work on together with a group. None of this should dissuade you from doing inner work. We are only observing a universal law. Anything that has great power for good can also be destructive if the power is mishandled. Does that sound familiar? If we want to live intimately with the powerful forces of the inner world, we must also respect them. There's that word again, R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Alternative realities, the world of dreaming, and the realm of imagination. Our verbal patterns betray many of our automatic assumptions. If one discusses a dream with a friend, the friend is likely to ask something like, "Did that detail really happen, or only in the dream?" The implication is that what happens in a dream is not real. In fact, it would be more accurate to ask, did it happen in dream reality or in physical reality? In the world of dreaming or in the ordinary world? Both are genuine worlds. Both are realities that truly exist. Very interesting. But the world of dreaming, if we only realized it, has more practical and concrete effect on our lives than outer events do. Let me read that again. Both are genuine worlds. Both are realities that truly exist. But the world of dreaming, if we only realized it, has more practical and concrete effect on our lives than outer events do. I didn't really read it perfectly that time, but I hope you get the gist of it. It's important dreaming has more practical and concrete effect on our lives than outer events do. For it is in the world of dreaming that the unconscious is working out its powerful dynamics. It is here that the great forces do battle or combine to produce the attitudes, ideals, beliefs, and compulsions that motivate most of our behavior. Once we become sensitive to our dreams, we discover that every dynamic in a dream is manifesting itself in some way in our practical lives, in our actions, relationships, decisions, automatic routines, urges, and feelings. We believe ourselves to be in conscious control of these elements of life. But this belief is the great illusion of ego control. These aspects of our lives are actually determined from a far deeper place. It is in the world of dreaming that their root sources are revealed in a form that we can see and understand. Dreams express the unconscious. Dreams are dynamic mosaics composed of symbols that express the movements, conflicts, interactions, and developments of the great energy systems within the unconscious. The unconscious has a particular capacity to create images and to use those images as symbols. It is these symbols that form our dreams, creating a language by which the unconscious communicates its contents to the conscious mind. Just as a burning fire inherently exudes heat, the unconscious inherently generates symbols. It is simply the nature of the unconscious to do so. As we learn to read those symbols, we gain the ability to perceive the workings of the unconscious within us. This ability to produce symbols affects more than just our dreams. All of human life is nourished by the flow of symbolic imagery from the well springs in the unconscious. And here's an excerpt from a book titled Great Mother by Newman, with 2 N's. The symbolic imagery of the unconscious is the creative source of the human spirit in all its realizations. Not only have the consciousness and the concepts of its philosophical understanding of the world arisen from this symbol, but also religion, rite and cult, art and customs. And because the symbol-forming process of the unconscious is the source of the human spirit, language, whose history is almost identical with the genesis and development of human consciousness, always starts out as a symbolic language. Let me read that with more flow. And because the symbol-forming process of the unconscious is the source of the human spirit, language, whose history is almost identical with the genesis and development of human consciousness, always starts out as a symbolic language. I don't know if that's a complete sentence, but he's probably right. Thus, Jung writes, an archetypal content expresses itself first and foremost in metaphors. End quote. The image symbols of the unconscious find their way to the level of consciousness mainly by 2 routes: dreams and imagination. It is easier to grasp the symbolic quality with dreams, for dreams often present mythical creatures and unearthly situations that would be impossible in everyday physical life. People are usually confused by the dream images until they learn that the images are symbolic and not to be taken literally. Since dream images make no sense in ordinary terms, people dismiss them as weird or meaningless, but actually, dreams are completely coherent. If we take the time to learn their language, we discover that every dream is a masterpiece of symbolic communication. The unconscious speaks in symbols, not to confuse us, but simply because that is its native idiom. Here's another excerpt. This one is from Jung's Memories, Dreams, and Reflections, MDR. I was never able to agree that the dream is a facade behind which its meaning lies hidden. A meaning already known, but maliciously, so to speak, withheld from consciousness. To me, dreams are a part of nature, which harbors no intention to deceive, but expresses something as best it can, just as a plant grows or an animal seeks its food as best it can. The forms of life, too, have no wish to deceive our eyes, but we may deceive ourselves because our eyes are short-sighted. Long before I met Freud, I regarded the unconscious and dreams, which are its direct exponents, as natural processes to which no arbitrariness can be attributed, and above all,